Hello, and welcome back, my loves, to the Ages of Chaos Appendix B. Appendix B, which exists because we've had a recent update, and I think you all know which one it is. It's one that Adam and I have been presaging and preempting and commenting upon since we began the bloody Fluff and Hammer all those many, many moons ago. Guess what? Guess who's back, motherfuckers? Slaanesh is back! Yay! And he's back in a big way, I can tell you. Hedonites of Slaanesh. It's like they listened and read to all of the nonsense on the internet about how they're squatting Slaanesh because it's too adult, and they thought, oh yeah, fine, we're gonna call it the Hedonites of Slaanesh just to mess with you, just to demonstrate how wrong you all were. And I've got to say, I'm very pleased. The book is fantastic. It really is. I've sort of been waiting for this one. I've been waiting for this one for a long time because Slaanesh is in a dynamically very interesting place in the mortal realms. Since the beginning, since he was ripped from the Chaos Pantheon and imprisoned in between Ulgu and Sheesh in the Nether realm, it's been really fascinating to see what the god is up to, how things are affecting him, how his removal from the Pantheon has affected it and his followers out there in the mortal realms. So the Hedonites of Slaanesh have this really interesting dynamic because their god is technically absent, because Slaanesh is... the other Chaos powers actively talk to and acknowledge their followers. They give them gifts and they visit them in dreams and stuff like that. Slaanesh can't technically do that except in the most vague way because he is imprisoned. And one of the things I love about this book, one of the things I absolutely love, is that this book rejigs the dynamic of Slaanesh slightly, and it makes Slaanesh a real character. It really delves into what Slaanesh was doing in the early years after the destruction of the old world. And one of the things it does is actually, for the first time ever, massively upsets the power balance between the Chaos powers. It was, although they've always been changeable, there was a time where the dynamic between the Chaos powers was kind of set. So you had like Khorne at the top, Slaanesh at the bottom, and then with Tzeentch and Nurgle kind of bouncing about in between. Now, there was a point, apparently, after the destruction of the old world, when Slaanesh fed on the souls of the elves, that he overshadowed them all. Slaanesh is really powerful now. Even in his current state, Slaanesh is phenomenally powerful. And one of the reasons Tzeentch helped to engineer his imprisonment is because of that. It's because Slaanesh threatened the balance of chaos, and so he needed to be reined in. But there's also, it does seem as though there was some other agenda. It seems as though Tzeentch is playing a very long game, as he often is, and he's engineered a lot of this, and also, it seems, the inevitable release of Slaanesh. It goes into some really sincere detail on the nature of Slaanesh, and it's fairly overt. I mean, it doesn't shy away from stuff. It talks about excess and obsession and the sensual elements of Slaanesh. But what I love is it goes really deep. It's not just one note, it's not just one thing. Slaanesh is the god of obsession and of desire and of inspiration in all of its forms. And this book goes into absolute detail on that. It demonstrates how even seemingly innocent things can become under the purview of Slaanesh, and how he is the most insidious of the Chaos powers, even above and beyond Tzeentch, because Tzeentch tends to move in. He tends to move his mortal followers in the same way that the ancient Greek gods did. He moves them about like they're pieces on a chessboard. Yeah, Slaanesh doesn't do that. Not in this book. Slaanesh doesn't do that. Slaanesh manipulates in a much more subtle and intimate way, whereas Tzeentch is this. He takes a god's eye view, so he looks down on his followers and moves them about, manipulates them in that way. Slaanesh doesn't do that. Slaanesh looks into their very souls, into their cores, what drives them, and subtly tweaks and manipulates and whispers and suggests to see what they'll do, to see which way they'll turn, to see which way they go, because that's what interests Slaanesh. There's much more in the way of free will, much more in the way of choice and agency when it comes to Slaanesh. It is really bloody fascinating. And there's a lot of that in the book. There's a hell of a lot of that in the book. It really goes into detail of how you fall to Slaanesh and the myriad ways that that can happen. It's fascinating stuff. And how his followers operate now that he's imprisoned. You have these very different reactions that inform the different types of Slaanesh armor you can get. So there are 3 different types. There are the Pretenders, the Godseekers, and the Invaders. And 2 of those are sort of trying to find... One of those is desperately seeking out Slaanesh. One of them is trying to supplant him. This is another really interesting twist in the background. You have the Pretenders. And the Pretenders are forces that are coalesced around particularly powerful individuals like Keepers of Secrets or Demon Princes that seek to take Slaanesh's place. They actually see... It demonstrates how demons can have incredible autonomy from their patron powers, even if that autonomy is something of a delusion, as it is here. The Pretenders are really interesting in that they are actually demigods in the sense that they gather faithful followers around themselves and they foment cults and they use that belief to empower themselves, and they are really powerful. The icons of a Pretender force are some of the most powerful demons in existence, according to the book, because they are powered and lent a degree of autonomy by that belief that they foster, and also by their self-belief. So it creates this wonderful new metaphysical dynamic for Chaos, where with a certain degree of subtlety, certain intelligent and conscious demons can create a degree of autonomy from their patron powers, and that's what the Pretenders have done. They seek to take Slaanesh's place, and that is really, really interesting. Lots of expanded background in this book for things like the Keepers of Secrets. There's a wonderful new named Keeper of Secrets, Shalaxi Hellbane, who is this... She's sort of like a huntress greater demon of Slaanesh, and her entire ethos, the reason she was created, is as a hunter of other greater demons. She is Slaanesh's manifestation as the great hunter, but also as the ego. She is paramountcy. So what she manifests Slaanesh's desire to dominate all others and to constantly prove one's own sense of superiority. That's what Shalaxi is about, and I really, really like that. The model is freaking awesome as well. That big sort of mane of hair that Shalaxi has is not hair, by the way. According to her description, it's actually antennae. It's antennae so that she senses things to this extreme degree of acuity, whereby she can taste colour and she can smell fear and that sort of thing. It's really bloody cool. Love Shalaxi, she's really cool. But the character that people have really taken to their hearts is Celeste, the symbiotically bound Herald of Slaanesh and Demon Prince of Slaanesh. The internet loves these two and has already basically started shipping them, which isn't necessarily outside of the background. That's actually what they are. They are kind of like husband and wife. The Herald, Sil Ludtung, was actually condemned by her peers because she showed too much affection to the mortal followers that she favoured, that she whispered to. She has a degree of affection, and actually their pact, the thing that bound them, is a kind of marriage. They came before the throne of Slaanesh and declared their devotion to one another, and so Slaanesh bound them together spiritually as one entity. That's really cool. I really, really like that. And that's another thing you get from this book. The the demons of Slaanesh are really expanded in terms of their background. They're not like the followers of Khorne who primarily occur on the battlefield. These guys are really subtle. The heralds and the demonettes are really subtle. They love their mortal followers and the mortals that they favour, that they're attracted to, and they swirl around them invisibly all the time, whispering to them, lending them secrets, telling them things, and subtly changing their states of mind or fanning the flames of obsession and desire and jealousy. It's really bloody cool. I love that element of this book. For the first time, the forces of Slaanesh are dynamically very, 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 very different from all of the others, from all of the other Chaos powers. There are some really fascinating army-wide special rules here. You've got things like the depravity points, which you have to think about. You have to really think about how they work, because they occur whenever a character from a Hedonites army inflicts a wound or receives a wound but doesn't die from it or doesn't kill its opponent, which makes perfect sense. Of course it makes perfect sense. The Slaanesh's influence on the battlefield waxes strong when pain is inflicted, when suffering is endured, when there's extremity of sensation. It's absolutely brilliant. And one of the nastiest things here, the locus of diversion, this applies to all Hedonite hero characters, and what it allows you to do is basically force the opponent player characters to fight last in any battle phase. It sounds small, it sounds subtle, but actually that is really bloody significant, because it means that the Slaanesh forces can actually pile up their heroes if they're very clever and maneuver them so that they act as like little assassination squads, so that they destroy the heroes of the opposing force before they have a chance to react. Very bloody clever. I really, really like that. There's a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of stuff. Each of the different Slaanesh forces, so the invaders, the pretenders, and the godseekers, they have their own command traits, they have their own special rules, they have their own artifacts. There's 3 spell laws of Slaanesh. It is absolutely brilliant. We even have the Fane of Slaanesh. We actually have this wonderful artifact, which is a piece of terrain, which you can place on the battlefield. The only downside I can see, and I think there's a reason for this, there are very few mortal followers in here. And that's kind of a shame. I would have liked to have seen some mortal units for Slaanesh, and there are a couple, but there aren't many. There certainly aren't any new ones, and that's kind of a shame. But I think they did that deliberately. We know for a fact that there is a Slaves to Darkness book coming out, and I think what's going to happen is, because there are actually powers and artifacts and spells that apply to mortal followers in this book, so I think what you're gonna get is the mortal side of stuff all collated in the Slaves to Darkness book. That's my guess, which we know is coming out later this year. So can't wait for that, and I sincerely hope there are actually new mortal units as well. It doesn't necessarily need it, because there's lots of new stuff here. There's the Contorted Epitome, which are these great living mirrors that are absolutely bloody brilliant on the battlefield. They basically cripple enemy psychers, and they are used to redirect your opponent's battle plans. Very, very Slaaneshi, very clever stuff. Absolutely love this book. And in context with other Chaos forces, when you make like these polyglot forces where you have detachments from here, detachments from there, honestly, you are going to be able to create some of the most interesting Chaos armies that have ever been with these books. I am so pleased. I cannot even tell you. Slaanesh is back, my loves. Not only is he back, I'd say from the Hedonites book, Slaanesh is one of the preeminent forces of the Mortal Realms at the moment. So, my loves, yeah, I'm most pleased, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. I really, really cannot. When something occurs, please expect another appendix to the Ages of Chaos. Until then, my loves, bye-bye.